Welcome to the Service MVP podcast, and my name is Joe Crisara, America's Service Sales Coach. And we have with us today a very special friend of mine, probably one of the best friends in the history of friends, as I say. His name is Travis Smith from Sky Services in Portland, Oregon. Travis, say hi to everybody.
What's up? How's everybody doing? I'll give my standard double thumbs up, like our Sky logo introduction. But how are you doing, Uncle Joe? It's good to talk with you again.
It is. You get that. That's your signature pose. The in front of the Sky logo with the double thumbs up. That is the Travis Smith signature pose. Travis runs a company called Sky Services in Portland, Oregon. I've watched his tremendous growth since he joined our company here at Service MVP, and have been witnessing what leadership looks like personified. And Travis is going to be doing the 3 mistakes that service companies make that can hold them back or inhibit their growth. Ideally, if Travis can help you identify or make these mistakes at least apparent, then you can do something about it and try to resolve it. Travis, again, thanks for being here. Travis, you want to get started by telling us a little bit about how you got started over at Sky Services and how you wound up in the position you're at, and just tell us about the journey a little bit there for a few minutes.
Absolutely. So, as far as I don't remember it, thankfully my baby book states it, but my first day on the job was 6 months and 5 days into my life, where I came to help Daddy do trim outs, and that was the earliest date that I could find for working at Sky Heating, which wasn't Sky Services at the time. It was just Sky Heating and Air Conditioning. And my father started the company October 1st of 1979, hoping to heat homes from the sky with all the initiatives that were out there, and quickly turned into more new construction as the initiatives went away in 1980 and 1981. They took the solar panels off the White House, got away from heating with the sky. And that begins my life back in 1983, since I just turned 40 a little bit ago and had a great birthday celebration for all of that. But I officially started working more in the business when I was about 12 years old, bending up L-metal rails in the shop, working on building base cans, kind of anything that I could that didn't use the pneumatic tools until I turned 18. And then once I turned 18, was able to start going out in the field, working on post and beams, doing more advanced fittings in the metal shop, which got me all the way up till 2008, where prior to that, we were, like I said, almost all new construction, and we were an add-on air conditioner specialist. Here in Oregon, air conditioning doesn't come standard with your home, and so that's how you made your money. You do the new construction furnace and ductwork, and as long as you could sell the air conditioner on the job, you might have made a few dollars, because we had no sales process, we had no CRM, we had no coaching. So we went from our peak at one point of doing 33 new home starts in a week to just 2 years later doing 33 new home starts. Excuse me, gotta keep getting those backwards because it's both 30. 33 new home starts in a week was our peak, and 2 years later it was 38 new home starts that entire year. So new construction just dropped off, and that's when I moved into the office and became the service manager. Started selling through service, which there was no such thing as a lead turnover at the time. All we wanted was marketed leads. Nobody cared to take the lead from the service tech, because the service tech was there to fix it. Can you imagine our crazy thinking back then? And my father and his business partners retired between 2009 and 2014. One of them had to be forcibly removed, but that's more of a story for another day, and certainly a mistake that I don't want to get into too much there, because hopefully that won't happen. I've got other great partnerships out there now, and those have all worked amazingly, but I did not originally select that partner. So by 2015, I was the sole owner of the company, started advertising the company, going on TV, getting our brand out there, which, by the way, was very poorly done. It was from a logo book. It was 2 logos smashed together. So we bought up a few other companies. By 2018, we'd rebranded. 2019 was our major year of change. We went from our old CRM to Service Titan. We went from Train to private label. We went from one coaching company to the next. And most importantly, there was what leads us to October of 2019. And so that would be exactly 40 years after Sky Heating was started. And that 40th year, right there in October, within days, was when we came to the first, it was before it was True Grip, at that first event down in Vegas. And I'll never forget walking through the door with Chris Calamusa there, and he announces me. I'm looking around like, am I late? Like, why is he announcing me walking into this room? I feel like I missed something, because I think I was the last one down to my team. And so I'm super embarrassed, not knowing what's going on. And I remember sitting down with the rest of my team at the table there. And we're like, all right, well, let's see what this guy has to say. You know, it's another sales coach. We've been through all of them. And I think I still have that notebook of me just scribbling as fast as I can, going, holy shit, we got to call this guy and figure out who this Joe Crisara is, because everything he said is just pure awesomeness. Like, how have we been missing out on this for so long? We've been stuck with these 3 options and, you know, not working on pure mode of service. We haven't been talking about finding the client code. We haven't been the best with the clients. We were way too technical, talking about load calculations and how it's a manual J version 8 with a design temperature of 95 degrees, looking at the indoor dry bulb 74. And it was just like, that's the way we talked. So we sent our first couple system designers down there. Ryan, our current sales manager, went down, and I'll never forget him coming back, going from, I don't even know what it was, $10,000 or $11,000 average sale to he comes back from total immersion early November and has $21,000 average sales, just knocking it out of the park. So from 2019, obviously some big changes there. 2020, we added plumbing. 2021, we added electrical. And 2022, I sold the business to private equity and decided to stay on as president, which is what I am today, and partner in the private equity group and helping run things there. And it's been quite a wild ride since 2019. So I think that probably gives the best introduction I can give without getting into too many of the boring, nuanced details going into it.
Well, that's okay. You know what? That's pretty exciting details. And you know what? Service MVP has exponentially grown since you joined us. So I think it's a meeting of the minds. And Travis is one of the very many clients, but actually one of the very few, I call it, truth tellers out there. And you know, I won't get into details on that either, but people online can tell that when Travis Smith says something, it's not false. Let's put it that way. It's that lot of credibility, and because of that, that has helped Service MVP. So Travis, thank you so much. And I'm glad your team got that growth from us, but definitely we got personal growth from you too. I think it's definitely a meeting of the minds for sure.
Yeah, so we have, you know, a bunch of younger teammates, a lot of our sales teams in their late 20s, early 30s. And so they talk about Uncle Joe is the cheat code to sales. I mean, it's like whatever that old Mario code is, up, down, left, right, A, B, start. I think it's something like that. That's what you are. You're like the original cheat code for sales. Once you know the total immersion process, you've got that down to best serve clients, best serve the company, and ultimately, when you serve the clients in the company, you'll serve yourself and your sales ambitions and drives moving forward too, and of course, company as a whole there.
Well, definitely, that's some great stuff. And Travis definitely is you know, he didn't do it on. If I asked Travis how would you build a company like this, he would definitely tell us not on his own. He has like some amazing people, Ryan, Heather, Anthony, and Brian, and people like that I just know are kind of part of the growth legacy over there. And his team is an amazing team of people that has made all this possible, right, Travis? Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that, and this isn't one of the mistakes that I was thinking of, but I think that as we get into the mistakes that other people make is that they often try and hire better than themselves or worse than themselves, and they think of themselves as the best. And I'll never forget this contractor in my local market that ended up not liking the truths that I thought I was trying to tell him. And he posted one day on Facebook about how he was going to be moving out of the field and he's hiring new installers. So you better get your installs done now because the best installers starting to retire. And I thought, what a load of shit. Let's tell all of our clients, after I retire, my company's only getting shittier because I'm the best. And hey, we're only hiring shittier people from here on out. Like, what a sales pitch is that, right? Can you imagine? Hey, Coca-Cola is changing our formula. So as we change our formula, it's going to taste shittier. It will not taste as good as it used to. The new formula will be shittier, but that's what we're going to sell you. Nobody drink Coca-Cola. They'd all go drink Pepsi or be like, maybe they want to try it just out of pure curiosity. But I thought that was the most asinine thing. And yeah, it's truly the team that got me here. I mean, they're all smarter than me. Ryan is a way better salesperson than I am. Anthony's a way better general manager. And we don't even have to get into finances because Heather's way better on the finance side, and Kelly, our operations manager, is way better at operations, process, procedure. So I'm incredibly thankful to have an amazing team here at Sky and at the startup that we've got going on down in San Diego with Nicholas and Cody down there. Cody is so much better out in the field working with the team. Nicholas is so much better at sales. I just get to sit on the back end and help design some of the programs, work on pricing, look over the financials, and make sure that we're all in line helping with that overall operations. The president's just kind of pointing and directing, which is a great fun job for me, getting to set that vision, decide where we want to go, come up with the new things. And obviously Service MVP, Service Titan, private label were all some of the new things that we thought of and implemented, and we're working with a lot more of those moving forward. But definitely hire people better than yourself, not worse. Be humble, know that everybody you're hiring, if they're not better than you, your goal is to make them better than you. And that for a lot of business owners can be difficult, stating, yep, that person sitting across from me is better at me than something, and I'm the business owner. Yep, absolutely, every freaking time they better be.
That's awesome. So number one mistake, I got it right here. I'll go with this. The number one mistake is to not hire people, to try to hire people who are not as good as you, and because you want to be the boss, rather than hiring people better than you so they can take ownership of their jobs. And you can, I call that, I call that, Travis, I call it business surfing. You're able to ride on top of the wave.
Absolutely.
As opposed, and that's what it describes it perfectly the way I see you living your life right now. Pretty much everything I see now is family. I see airplanes and you flying your plane. I see you guys traveling as a family together and doing things together. And I call that business surfing, which is the way business is supposed to be. It's supposed to be freedom for your family as opposed to putting the family in prison because I got to do all this stuff or I got to sell all this stuff and do all this and that. But I think that's a great bit of advice there. I think everybody, if you saw one thing about the way Travis is doing things, it's really about whatever the reason why everybody did go into business, which is to get freedom for you and your family, to be able to have the education, the housing, the transportation, everything you want, the investment, the return on investment for your family. I think that's definitely something that you're achieving, and it's always working on it. I think we always are working on it together, but definitely something that you epitomize. So thanks so much for that. You want to go on to the number two mistake that you think contractors make that hold
let's
themselves
call
back?
that a freebie because that was supposed to be like
That's a free
zero.
one. That's not even there. That's just a bonus.
Yeah.
That's a bonus one. Okay, what's number one? What's number one then? What's number one?
So yeah, we'll start with number one because I did kind of have three prepared, and that first one is really poor financials. So often we see companies, and I've looked at this point, gosh, almost 100 companies of financials, and they're often so poorly set up that they either overinflate their gross profit margin so they think they're doing better than they are, which means they're actually paying more taxes than they should be just to inflate their ego, or they're so wrong that they're not getting information and they're flying blind. Like when we're in an airplane, we sometimes fly through the clouds and we're flying blind. We don't know which way is up. And if you've never flown through a cloud, it's not like being on a road where you're like, do I turn here or the next turn? It's, am I going straight down towards the ground? Am I completely inverted? Am I banking? Am I going up? Like what's going on the plane? You really don't know until you can look at your instrumentation. And if you lose your instrumentation, you have backup instrumentation upon backup instrumentation typically because things can go wrong. You can lose batteries, you can lose pieces. And if you need to get back down to the ground, it's not like you can just pull in any parking lot and be like, oh, I've got a flat tire, or pull on the side of the road. You've got to make it to a safe airport that you can land at, that's long enough for you, that has winds that are right for you. So a lot of planning goes into it, and that's kind of like financials. You can't be flying blind in your business with poor financials that don't have proper depreciation, that don't have proper schedules, that don't have proper gross margin, that tie back into proper pricing, that tie back into your sales process. Like the financials are really the backbone, not to mention it's truly the value. I've seen people lose millions of dollars in value simply because of how they didn't have their financials set up. And it's often, I think, one of the last thought after pieces. So many of us as business owners lie in the middle. And in that procurement side, you've got everything from the second that they start, which is the call center, all the way through to the end, which is the financials. And we often forget about the call center and we forget about the financials. And those two pieces are so vitally important. And I love that you guys have the CSR, DSR boot camp because it helps work with those very important frontline staff. That's the first person answering the call that's got that smiling face and says, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with today? So those roles often get forgot, but financials by far get forgot because it's like, oh, how can we outsource this? Who's the cheapest person to do financials? They're just numbers. They're all going to be in the same format, and absolutely not. The format of the numbers can change, how you do the numbers can change, and the information you gather from them all changes. So mistake number one after mistake number zero is having poor financials and poor financial systems in place. And that could even go down to cash controls for theft. It could be, well, I was just talking to somebody about this, and I think it was about 2 years ago. We had people hack into our emails and try and set up rules that forwarded emails from certain people over to other people where they'd copy my emails and send them out. Thankfully, we're all 10 feet away because it's during remote work. They walked to my office and they're like, "You sure you want me to send this wire?" And I'm like, "What wire?" No, I
Hmm.
didn't. They're like, "We have an email. It's my logo. It says Travis at skyheating.com."
Oh my God.
I've heard of other people that have had that happen to them. You could have your, you know, your bank accounts changed on your Green Sky, GoodLeap, Service Finance, whoever you're using. You could have it changed on your credit cards, and all of that stuff needs to have proper two-factor authentication and proper people overseeing it. If you're paying property taxes, if you're paying sales taxes, here in Portland we have metro taxes and cat taxes. Those have all got to be paid timely and appropriately, or it's going to cost you a lot of money, or you could lose a lot of money from it. So having a strong financial person that can help you with that business planning, show you the proper historicals, and build up the value of your company while helping reduce the taxable liability, you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck in that position that at first looks like it just hits your bottom line, but with the right person in place can add to the bottom line and add to the value of the company. So that's why I really think that's kind of the first mistake that I see a lot of people make. And for many years, obviously all of these mistakes, I'm not saying all these things because I've done perfect, is because I've screwed them all up, I assure you. So
Hmm. Hmm. I think that's
those are,
something like I
yeah.
think that's something like when that's I think one of the biggest values of the private equity space has brought to this whole thing is that you have somebody who takes a look at this and it's almost like I think every contractor realizes it like, yeah, we never had that shit together. We never had that together, right? And I think that's one of the things like the accountability that private equity brings is sort of a thing that's value that an unknown value beside just putting cash into a company, which is this third party oversight that says this doesn't make any sense, right? So I always
Well,
said I think when I sold my company, Travis, I said, man, one of the best things I ever did was to have to get this stuff ready for somebody to look at it. And so I realized how messy it was. And it took me about 6 months to get it to where I felt comfortable. Okay, I feel comfortable presenting this to a third party, so they wouldn't think I'm a complete idiot if they if they saw it the other way. Does that make sense? Make sense there?
oh yeah, yeah. You don't want to come in naked and not have your your A game on and your workouts done for the last 6 months. You want to kind of be fit and lean because they're going to see your company naked essentially. Now on the private equity side, I would say that yeah, there could be some more controls in place. That could also be a downside if you don't have the right person. You're all of a sudden going to be going, wait, I've got this audit, I've got this conversion, I've got these things, and the person in charge won't be able to handle it, will be failing left and right because they wouldn't have been the right person hired. And private equity does add a lot of strain to the financials for companies that are not properly set up. And even companies that are properly set up are going to get strain, as that role, from all of my friends that I've talked to and that we've seen here personally, probably gets the most changes to their position and their role and the most
Mhm.
added items to it. But the nice thing about private equity is that it is private, which doesn't give you as many reporting requirements as a SEC regulated publicly traded
Yes,
company, and
yes.
financials closed by the 5th of the month where you're staying up till 10 o'clock at night. That's what we said no to. I don't think
Hey,
many people want to go that direction. So um, while there is help and support on the financials, there is a lot more requirements there too.
well, what's the number two mistake that contractors make that hold them back?
So number two to me is definitely shiny objects, which I definitely have shiny object syndrome. Love my cars, love my airplane, love all my fun stuff. So it's easy to, even in business, be looking at all the shiny objects and being like, oh, I saw somebody else added plumbing, so I'm going to add plumbing, and I've got 5 people here, and I'm doing poorly at heating and air conditioning. You're not ready to add plumbing. You're probably not ready to add electrical until you've got simple, repeatable processes where you're like, you know what, I don't know what to do with 20 hours of my week and I'm only working a 40-hour week as is. That's when it's time to break shit and add plumbing or add electrical or make drastic changes. Otherwise, a lot of it is you got to just be sitting there dialing knobs, tiny little bits. You're not going through and trying to turn the volume up to 11 on everything. You're trying to get to the little EQ and make minor adjustments to make your business profitable. And I was talking to a friend about a month ago, and we were looking at his financials, and he'd made almost no money this year. And we looked through them, and I started, let's take a look at the financials. Obviously, back to step number one. And we ran through the financials, and I very quickly said, look, here's your issue. It's right here in X, Y, and Z. Your turnovers are not at the right percentage. I've been there, done that before. Because of that, you're not the right profitability. If all you did was reduce your service revenue increase your turnovers, you'd see how much more your install would go up. And with that much more install, it'd take you no more install crews, no more overhead, and you'd be at 20% net profit from next to zero. He just got back to me, like this is either August or September we talked. And from September through October, he'd hit almost a 20% net profit just by making those minor changes. Now, thankfully, he wasn't looking at all sorts of other shiny objects because he was actually dialing in. He was enlisting the help of people to say, what am I doing wrong? Where do I need to go? Why am I stalling out here? Why am I growing but not making more money? And so many other people, though, they get in this spot where they do get into shiny objects. Oh, I'm going to go buy this and go buy that. Same thing happened to me. I started a branch in Central Oregon. We ended up having to shut it down. We bought a branch out in the Dalles, which took a ton of my time. It thankfully succeeded, but I think it probably succeeded in spite of me, not from me or because of me. We did add plumbing, but when we added plumbing, that was a little bit different because I had 20 hours a week. And I remember when we hired that first plumber, I said, all right, here's what you're doing. You're sitting at my desk for the next 2 to 3 days, and all you and I are doing is talking for the next 2 and 3 days and brainstorming and coming up with ideas. And then from there, we're going to go out to our team members' houses. And then from there, we're going to start going out to customers' houses. Like, keep in mind, this is, of course, a 15-plus-year journeyman person, but we didn't just start it by saying, oh, we're advertising plumbing and somebody's going out there. We designed it. We'd been designing it for almost a month prior and spending all that extra free time bringing that 20-hour work week back up to 40 hours by taking on another project. And then as that dropped off, then we took on the next project of adding electrical. Then it dropped off. Then we took on the next project. And so many people are always working 60, 70 hours a week when they really should be working 30 to 40, because probably 20 to 30 hours of it is just junk that they think is important, but it's actually absolutely useless to overall driving the business. And that goes back to the Pareto principle of 80-20 rule. 80% of your activities, or 80% of your forward movement will be 20% of your activities. How do you get rid of that other 80% that's only 20% of your forward movement and start moving the needle and shifting it? And it's often not some new thing because there's not many silver bullets out there. It's a lot of small, tiny adjustments and good business practices and principles that you need to be doing that tie back into having the proper financials and the right people in place at first. So stay away from the shiny objects until you have both the money and the time. Then you've earned your right to go look at some stupid shiny objects because they get pretty fun.
Yeah, I always think people think the next thing is what they're going to make money on. Why don't you make money on the current thing before show you can master the current thing you have, and then once you're at that business surfing part, then you can say, okay, I think I can go back in the water and try another wave, try a different wave, rather than trying to jump into a different wave when you're still buried in the first one, right? It's kind of like, exactly. That's a great one. That's a great way of putting it. And I like that story about just that small. I call it a small big. That contractor who's like, you just had to do a few small little thing, and all of a sudden, boom, it turned into 20% profit. Sometimes people are not that far away. That's the thing I noticed. Have you noticed that, Travis? They're like, it's like, man, you're just right there. You just have to just do this one little thing, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, he was literally weeks away. It was an hour-long phone call away, and I know other people helped him too. So by no means do I want to take all the credit, since he did all the work and all we did was talk. But after an hour-long phone call of looking at 100 different things, it was, right there in front of me. And so often they're looking for that silver bullet of, let's add plumbing. Okay, if you're making zero money, now is not the time to add plumbing. Now is the time to fix HVAC, fix it. Then once it's slowed down and it's been repeatable, then you add plumbing. Don't look at that next shiny object or next thing. Let's get that done first, get it fixed. And usually that starts with the sales side of saying, all right, let's bring in the revenue at first, because ultimately this was a sales issue. It was an issue where they weren't having the right lead turnover. They weren't selling the right jobs. And as soon as they did that, the rest of the metrics came in line.
Let's go on to mistake number 3, which is what?
You know that I tried to set that up because mistake number 3, I think goes back to not hiring the right coaches and not being humbled enough to say, I need help. Being able to reach out. I mean, it's difficult to come to a sales training like yours and be like, oh yeah, we suck at sales. No, you want to come to sales training and be like, oh, we're great at this. We know we're doing, and then have your mind blown. But if you come in there thinking you're the best, you're also not going to take the most information, because you're going to have so many of it blocked, and you're going to have your blinders on going, here's the info I'm looking for. When the reality is you want to open that mind up and say, I'm not the best at this. I'm not doing great at this. I'm doing okay enough. But ultimately, if you're here to learn, go to learn and go to learn what you don't know and then implement. And you have to have a coach that will help you implement, because if you try and implement 100 things overnight, you'll implement none of them. So I always tell people, if you go to a conference, what 3 things did you come back with? So when it came to the initial time that we came back from you, was, all right, we need to somehow figure out how to get to 6 options. I don't know how, but we're gonna have to build out 6 solutions, 6 options. We've got to better name them, and we've really got to talk about getting this average sale up and how we build these 6 options. So it kind of all came down to one core issue of 6 options with 2 minor issues that were going to help kind of facilitate that. And then it was time, instead of us saying, all right, well, now we know we need to do 6 options. That doesn't work. You can't just go give 6 options, as you know, and say, we're done. We've created the system that took Uncle Joe 30 years and we did it in an hour. No, then it's time to sign up for coaching, and whether that be financial coaching or business coaching through groups like Nexstar or Service Nation or BDR, and sales coaching through people like Service MVP and you've got to have somebody that then helps you fine tune it and take those pieces to the next level and hold you accountable, because it's easy to not hold yourself accountable. And that's, I think, the difficulty of an owner, is that you have no cheerleader. You only have people beating you up all day long. So when you have coaches, those coaches can be your cheerleaders, because you're the cheerleader for your team, and that becomes exhausting. Just as I'm sure it's exhausting many days to be Uncle Joe and be like, all right, I got to be the cheerleader for hundreds of companies. That's a tough job. That's not an easy job. And thankfully on the sales side, you get to see all of us come back and see the success and at least get some wins from it. But there's a lot of coaching companies where they don't get wins because people won't follow up, they won't implement, and they don't have the accountability.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, truthfully, since I never do participate, I decided in 1996 never to participate in negativity. So, celebrating everybody, being a cheerleader for everybody is one of my superpowers. And I always see I say I'm an optimist, and I think that's one thing I think that I see in you too, Travis, is that I've seen some negative things happen to you, and people who leave and go and come, and you find some people aren't the right fit. Yet you still manage it with optimism and grace. And to me, I think that everybody that I've seen you work with, I mean, I'm not sure. Can you give us some advice on this? Because I noticed that every time you talk to somebody, you give it to them straight. Don't get me wrong. And sometimes it can come off a little harsh, but I will
Yes.
say that what you've learned in the years I've known you, since 2019 till the last 4 years, I've seen that a shift to where you're delivering things with a sense of care, respect, and support. More than I think you started out with 4 years ago. Tell us a little bit about that. How you to me, I think you've changed your the way you do it in terms of providing accountability in a way a little bit with a sense of warmth. Accountability being the dish served warm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's easy up front when you're just like, all right, they are screwing it up, they're wrong, very cut and dry. And certainly as you grow larger, you have to work with more people at your company, work with more coaches outside of it, and therefore you need to be more tactful. I by no means am a tactician. Heather will tell you, as you've seen from me in the past, I'm slowly working on it. I'm slowly learning on it. I've tried to participate less in negativity, but I do still participate in it every once in a while. And sometimes it's I hate to say it, it's just a little fun to let a little bit of that stress out. But I guess as you get older, you grow as a person, and a lot of that comes back to, it's a lot less stressful when the company is more successful, running like a machine, and therefore you have more time to kind of think through those thoughts and answers to be more tactful of it. And just having that right running company with the right running team with the right running sales process makes it easier to sit back and say, all right, really, is that the way you want to go about this, or should we try it the other way?
Mm-hmm.
The difficulty is, if you're the owner and you've been in that role where nobody says no to you, you have that power of the purse. I think it's John C. Maxwell that calls it that. It is difficult to get a no.
Mm-hmm.
Even before this meeting, I got 2 no's today, where I'm sitting here and I'm just like, what the heck? The bank won't take care of this, and I need this taken care of. And I come onto the call, and I was a little frustrated from multiple things. And as soon as I see your smiling face and, hey, it's Travis, it's very hard to be negative around Uncle Joe. So I got to say that you definitely helped me not participate in that negativity as much. I'm not 100% not participating in it since 1996. That'll be like a, I don't know, 2026 goal maybe. We'll work on it for then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will not participate in negativity 2026 on. Give me another year or two to still wind it down.
I'll give you another year on this. Keep working on it. But I think I do see the movement where it is changing already. So don't sell yourself short. You already had some personal growth on that front, and I definitely see that in you for sure. And definitely, I thank you for any final thoughts you want to share with contractors before we wrap it up here, Travis. Anything, a final piece of advice, or just anything that you'd like to share with them just before we leave?
I think we hit on those three pieces is well, four pieces. Make sure to hire the right people, make sure to have good financials, make sure to not go after too many shiny objects until you have the time and the ability and money, and make sure you have the right coaches, because those four things will really fix a lot of problems in the business. But ultimately, Louis Bruno told me this. He goes, the company will always reflect the size that you are as a leader. And I remember telling him, I'm a $25 million company. He goes, great, you may be a $25 million company under the hood, but if you're doing $8 or $10 million a year, you're an $8 or $10 million leader, and you're the one failing the company, Travis. Mm-hmm. And that was a hard lesson to learn, that as the leader of the company, you are its biggest limit. There are companies out there like like Ken Goodrich at Gettle. I don't know how much they do in revenue, but what, 500, 600 million. There's Ishmael doing 100 million in revenue. That shows that it is 100% possible. So if I'm not doing that, that's my fault, because those leaders were able to do it. Then you need to decide, how far do you truly want to go? Because it's perfectly fine to say, I only want to be a $10 million company. I only want to be this. I don't want that added stress, that extra time frame. So decide what's right for you, and don't let somebody else make that decision because somebody else has done it. But know that if somebody else has done it, it is possible, and it is still back on you. So those things need to be in alignment for your stress levels to go down and your negativity to go down, I think.
I think one of the things that does reduce stress for me, I think, is that as a leader, I believe in exactly what you're saying, that whatever we are challenged with, or our challenges, I always say it starts with me as a leader. I always say I either had a blind spot, I thought we were doing it, but we weren't. I thought we're doing it, but we weren't doing it as great as we could have done it. So things that I think leaders, we have to admit, I think giving yourself the gift of responsibility gives you the power you need to take it to that next level. I think that's where it does start.
Absolutely.
All right, Travis. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate you. And everybody, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Everybody, have a great one. Travis, thank you so much.
Thanks, Uncle Joe.